What if I told you the biggest move in the entire global tech war wasn't about the fastest, most advanced chips at all, but instead, it was about the ones you've probably never even thought about? Well, today, we're going to dive into the incredible story of SMIC, China's chip giant, and how it's pulling off a masterstroke, quietly rewriting the rules of the entire game.
So here's the big question, right? How does a company not just survive, but actually thrive after being cut off from the world's absolute best technology? Everyone, and I mean everyone, was obsessed with the race for the fastest, tiniest chips. But SMIC's story, wow, it shows us that the real battle might just be for control of the so-called boring chips. The ones that power literally everything else. Their strategy is a total game changer, and we're about to break down exactly why. Okay, first up, a giant's blocked path. To really get this, you first have to understand who we're talking about. SMIC. They're not just some random company. Think of them as China's national champion in the chip industry. They are a huge deal. But just a few years back, they hit a brick wall, a wall so big it could have completely crushed their ambitions.
And that wall was U.S. sanctions. The U.S. basically dropped the hammer on SMIC, completely cutting them off from the super advanced tools they needed to make those cutting-edge 7-nanometer chips and below. We're talking about the stuff you need to compete at the absolute highest level. For most companies, this would have been it. Game over. End of story.
But here's where it gets interesting. With that path to the most advanced chips totally blocked, SMIC did something brilliant. They pivoted. They went all in on what we call mature process chips. Now, don't let the name fool you. Mature doesn't mean old or useless. Think of these as the workhorse chips. They're the essential, everyday components that power everything. Your car, your coffee maker, industrial robots, 5G base stations, you name it. They're like the flour and sugar of the tech world. They are in absolutely everything.
And this brings us to part 2, flooding the chip market. This is where SMIC's genius move really starts to take shape. See, they didn't just dip a toe in the mature chip market. Oh no, they went all in. They launched a massive expansion with the full backing of the Chinese government, with one goal in mind: to completely dominate this space.
And just look at these numbers. They tell a really powerful story. Right now, China's at about a third of the market. But by 2027, projections show them controlling somewhere between 45 to 50% of the entire world supply of these essential chips. This isn't just about gaining a little market share. This is a fundamental, tectonic shift in the global balance of power for the whole tech industry.
Let's put that another way, because this chart makes it crystal clear. The end game is simple. By 2027, China, led by SMIC, is on track to overtake Taiwan and become the world's #1 producer of these foundational chips. And when that happens, it gives them immense, almost unimaginable leverage over the entire global electronics supply chain.
So you're probably asking, how on earth did they pay for all this? How do you fund a massive expansion and undercut all your rivals at the same time? Well, the answer lies in their second, and maybe most potent weapon, what we're calling the profit squeeze. If you just glance at SMIC's financials, you'd be totally confused. It looks like a paradox. On one hand, their revenue is soaring to record highs. Awesome, right? But on the other, their net profit is absolutely plummeting. Now, this isn't a sign of failure. It's actually a core part of their strategy. The secret? You got to look beyond that net profit number. You have to look at something called EBITDA. It's basically a measure of their real operating performance and, most importantly, their cash flow. You see, all those new factories they're building, the depreciation costs make their profits look terrible on paper. But their actual cash flow, the money coming in the door, is incredibly strong. We're talking margins of 50 to 58%. That cash flow is the engine, the war chest that's funding this entire operation. So, with this mountain of cash and, of course, government support, SMI can do something its rivals just can't afford to do. They can slash prices. We're talking reports of price cuts of up to 30% on some of their chips. This isn't just a sale to move inventory. No, this is a full-on price war, and it's designed to do one thing: drive their competitors out of the market.
And you can see the results right here. The impact on their rivals has been absolutely devastating. Take UMC in Taiwan. They were forced into price cuts, and their margins collapsed from 45% down to below 30%. PSMC, another Taiwanese company, got pushed right out of key markets. And even Global Foundries in the US has been forced to look for defensive mergers just to compete on scale. SMIC isn't just playing the game, they're rewriting the rulebook, and a lot of companies just can't keep up.
Okay, but it's not just about a price war. That's just one piece of the puzzle. SMIC's strategy is also about building a serious long-term advantage. It's about moving beyond what some might call dumb commodity chips. They're not just making them cheap, they're making them absolutely essential.
And they're doing this by building a kind of high-tech moat. They're focusing on specialized, multifunction chips, things like power management for EVs and 5G phones, or image sensors for smartphone cameras and self-driving cars. These aren't just simple little components, they're complex, highly integrated solutions. Think about it. Once a company like a car maker designs its entire power system around one of these SMIC chips, it becomes incredibly difficult and expensive for them to switch to a competitor. That customer is now sticky. That is a powerful competitive advantage.
And here's the final piece. SMIC isn't doing any of this in a vacuum. They're not playing this game alone. They are the cornerstone of a much, much larger strategy. Think of it as China's national tech team, all working together to build a self-sufficient supply chain.
They formed what you could call a red supply chain alliance. They have key domestic partners like Huawei, who is not only driving innovation, but also guaranteeing huge orders. You have OmniVision, a giant in image sensors, ready to fill up SMIC's new factories. And GigaDevice, a leader in memory chips, is both a key customer and a strategic investor. This creates this powerful self-sustaining ecosystem where everyone helps each other, fueling China's overall tech ambitions.
So what's the result of all this? What happens when you put all these pieces together? Well, you get a completely new chip order for the entire world. A world where China holds immense power over the foundational technologies that, let's be honest, drive our entire modern world.
This quote really sums it up perfectly. SMIC is creating a scorched earth environment for its competitors. They're playing a completely different game. By focusing on long-term dominance instead of short-term profits, they're creating a market where their Western rivals who have to answer to shareholders every quarter simply can't compete. This isn't temporary. It's a permanent shift in the industry.
So the bottom line is this. The result of all this is a new, dual-track global market, a market where brutal price wars for these foundational chips just becomes the new normal. We're heading for a world where China effectively sets the price for the chips that are in your car, your phone, and yes, even your coffee maker. It's not a trend, it's the new reality.
So that leaves us with one final, massive question. With the world's foundational chips pretty much secured, and this powerful national ecosystem behind them, what will China build next? And maybe more importantly, how is the rest of the world going to respond to this new reality?